me if I get off the thing, all right?
I'll raise my hand and be obnoxious. I'm working on it because I think it's a good skill.
You're going live now.
All righty. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Betsy Freeman Booking Live Show. It's Sunday afternoon. I'm so happy to have three wonderful guests with me that I know from the musical world in Southern California. Alina Roitstein. Is it Roitstein or Roitstein? Roitstein-Anderies. And Amber Peters and Michael Connor. I would love to we're talking about premiering new musical works today. And I know you all have been around singing and performing with many composers and conductors, and then also writing and premiering some of your own works. So we're really excited to hear about your advice and your thoughts. And so let's just start by having you each introduce yourselves a little bit and talk about what kind of works that you've been involved in premiering. So we'll go with Alina first, and then Amber, and then Mike.
Hi, okay. So I have premiered, so, sometimes I don't even really think about it that way because I just really like being part of lots of different collaborations, and so I've premiered works in a lot of different contexts, actually. There's been works that I've premiered kind of new classical voice solo stuff in choral contexts, in jazz contexts as well, where, it's just, you don't really think about it as premiering things as much as just like playing a new tune. Yeah, so there's been a lot of that. For me, premiering new works, and even just, not even premiering new works, just working on music of living composers is one of my very favorite things to do, because you actually get to collaborate with the people who wrote the music, which is so much fun. I wish I could talk to Mozart and see what he was thinking when, but I can't. That for me is really a wonderful thing. Yeah.
Thank you, Amber.
Well, it's a fun subject to talk about. And my own experience has been less on the classical side of things with regards to premiering new music, but I did have an experience in college working on a more classical piece that was kind of atonal, and it required a soprano soloist to be, leading this song cycle, which is great. When I got into my graduate program and teaching at California Baptist University, I was part of a group called the Gary Bonner Singers. And they had about a 20-year history, they're still going, I think, where they were very active in commissioning new music from some of the most popular church choir composers. So, raise your hand if you know Mark Hayes, Pepper Choplin, let me see, Glenn Pickett, Daniel Simpson, Philip Kevrin. Those are all names that were on their most recent commissioned album. So I was in that group for about 10 years, and I got to be on this album here. It's called Whatever Is True. And so they would take scriptures that were not commonly put to music, like big chunks of scriptures, and challenge these composers with it and say, don't just write what you would write for a very simple church choir, like give it all you got and write the orchestration. And so they put, make a beautiful recording of it with orchestra and choir, like 12 voice choir, not just, 4 voice church choir kind of thing. So it was a lot of fun. I'm glad I got to be a part of that. And we never announced, by the way, we're premiering new music at our next concert. We would just come out with a new album and then maybe perform some things from the album and then do some of the classics and other things. It was a great experience, actually.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Thank you, Amber. Mike.
Hi, I'm Michael Connor, and I'm a classical artist mostly. I've been on Broadway, but I think my heart and soul really lies in the classical world. And I've never heard a rap or hip hop song all the way through. And I'm not bragging. I'm just like saying, well, I don't listen to anything. I don't listen to music because I'm write a lot of music. So I'm trying to keep myself clean from being perverted by some tune that I hear whistling by and then putting it into my music, thinking it's mine, because we're all sponges. But anyway, I feel like I've been working on a piece my entire life. It's called The Slave Letters. And I recently just did an approximation of it at my new church job, which is All Saints Church in Pasadena. It's an Episcopal church. And in this iteration of it, they called it Lamentations of Black Souls. And you asked about the challenges. Well, one of the challenges was...
We're going to get to the challenges a little bit later.
Oh, good. All right. Well, then
we'll be talking about the challenges for a while, because I think this is a great show for people who are interested in doing something like this. I feel like 2022 is a time when a lot of us are getting to jump into the worlds that we love, getting to jump back into performance and music, and and some of us have been writing in this last season, but maybe not a lot of us have actually gotten to go out and premiere something that we wrote before. So this might be a great show for some people that are interested in doing that. I will say I have not premiered any classical music that I wrote by a long shot, but I have a musical that I've been writing for many years, and it's a long way off from being ready to even be heard, but I've been workshopping it a little bit here and there. So yeah, like Amber said, I've mostly been involved in the premiere of a couple of new musicals, Geeks the Musical in 2012, that went on to be performed several more times with a new cast across the country, which was really fun. And then earlier than that, there was a youth production based on Pandora's Box that I was a part of, that I understand is going to have a revival one of these days. It's a really great show, and my friend who started that show in Illinois, one of the composers, is now here in Southern California. So I'm really excited about seeing that come about again. But I've loved attending some of your performances and hearing you sing, and I'm always excited to come out to whatever you're doing. And I just want to hear more about what those processes have been like for you. So let's go on to the next question. For the first question, we'll go in the same order. It'll be Alina, Amber, Mike, and then we'll jump around a little bit. Okay. What are some unexpected challenges? Did I really make that the second one? No. I want to go first to what have been your favorite experiences so far? What are your favorite experiences so far? And maybe also add why. Why is being part of a new music performance or premiering your own work so much fun? Because I know it's not always easy. Alina.
Oh my goodness. My favorite experiences. Oh gosh, I can't. Oh my God. That would take forever for me to say, because pretty much every single one of them. Because for me, part of the really wonderful thing about, I'll talk first about this concert that I did in Boston Court, where I was one of their young artists, and Lisa Sylvester was the pianist who I was collaborating with, and we put together a program of all living composers, and it was a program of, we had the theme of women under the radar. So it wasn't all female composers, but it was all subject matter of women who were under the radar. So Juhi Bonsall wrote this, is in the process. She's actually been writing an opera on the life of, actually she might be done with it. On the life of Ada Lovelace, who is credited as one of the very pioneers of computer programming.
Oh wow.
And so it's an opera based on her life. And so we premiered 2 arias from that opera at that concert. And then I worked with Jordan Nelson, and he took texts by Marsha P. Johnson. Actually, it was just like excerpts from interviews with her. And so she was a pioneer in rights for trans people. And so it was really incredible just working with them and getting to dig into these new texts and work with poets and work with just all these different subject matters and getting into the mindset and the stories of all of these incredible women who don't receive enough attention for all of the incredible things that they did. And so that was part of what we wanted to do in that recital, was to bring awareness of some of these incredible women who changed the world, but we don't always know about them. So that was really incredible. I love working with Juhi Bansal also. She's just like one of my good friends. And so that was, before we pressed record, you were asking me about the that project that was premiered at Huntington Library. And that was another work of Juhi Bansal's, it was called We Look to the Stars, which was all poetry around the theme of stars, and it was collaboration with LA Opera and Pasadena City College, where I also teach. So those were two of my more recent concerts premiering stuff. Solo work. I also sing in LA Master Chorale, where we premiere new works all the time as a choir. So that's also incredibly rewarding. Also I actually have a family of musicians as well. So I've gotten to premiere works by my dad and my husband, and arrangements by my brothers, and that's really fun too. So that is also some of my very favorite stuff to do, because I'm, it's like they write for me. They know my voice so well. So writing music that they wrote is like, stepping into a custom made gown or something, it's just like perfect and wonderful. So that, I guess, what was it? My favorite experiences so far. Yeah. My dad wrote a work that we were just about to record when the lockdown happened. So look out for that at some point in the future. It was actually my last concert on March 13th, 2020 was the premiere of this work, and it was called This Earth, and my dad wrote the music and I wrote the poetry. So that is something that was really near and dear to my heart. And so we premiered that right before the lockdown, and we were just about to go into the studio and record it. So we haven't been able to do that yet since I had a baby during the pandemic, but that's something that we got to get on the books really soon, because it's just an incredible song cycle and really special. So did that cover all the questions?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, for this, that gives us a lot to ask you about later on too. Okay. All right, Amber, excited to hear from you.
That sounds like so much fun. I think my favorite experience was the day that we went in to record that album of commissioned music. There was so much electricity and energy and just all being on our feet. Mostly what we did together as a choir was perform. Like every 2 weeks, we'd be out doing a church concert somewhere. It's like a 60 voice choir performing on like Sunday evenings. And so getting together, it was such an unusual thing for us to get together and make an album. They would do it once every couple of years. It was just a really great day. And it felt important, because listening back to the album later, I realized people are going to be influenced by this album if they perform any of these songs. And so we got to be part of that, kind of that groundbreaking moment. That would have an impact on other singers.
Absolutely.
My God, that sounds incredible.
It was cool. Yeah. I still have the tunes in my head. They're good. It's good music.
I love it when something gets stuck in your head that you actually like, and especially if it's something unique that not everybody else knows. It's kind of fun to have that there. Okay, Mike.
Well, my favorite experience was last Sunday. I performed my work called Lamentations for Black Souls at All Saints Church. And there was, like Amber just said, there was a lot of energy. The church was very nervous about it. because I'm one of only 4 Black people on staff. And so they'd never done anything like this. They're very inclusive, but for some reason they haven't gotten a lot of African American people or Latino people coming to the church. So this was, but I'm focused on the African American story. And so we did it, and the buzz happened, and we ended up getting 137 people. And of course, they only set up chairs for 50 people.
That's wonderful.
So it was an embarrassment of riches. And the people were, I've never really experienced it where I felt the entire audience breathing together at the same time. Just, they were just riveted. And it wasn't a very long performance, but it was all my music, which I really felt good about. And it sounded great in the space, and I got a beautiful recording of it. And I think it was a huge blessing for the community, because maybe somebody will think about putting themselves in the plight of someone who doesn't have a voice, who doesn't have a face. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
That's beautiful. Yeah, no, it's wonderful that we're really intentionally in the past, 10, 20 years, even more intentionally looking for who's not been being represented enough, and whose story can we find that has never been told, instead of going to, oh, well, what, because it's wonderful when everyone shows up. But whether anyone shows up or not, some of these stories need to be told and known, just to help us understand the human experience better. And it takes a lot of courage to start a new project.
Betsy, can I interject for a second?
Yeah.
As a Black man, in my estimation, there's been a sea change of opportunities nowadays for African American people. I mean, the Metropolitan Opera, until recently, unless you're doing a revival of Showboat or what's the Porgy and Bess, you don't see African Americans, or it's an all Black production, which I call segregation. And so people are like, oh, you guys had an all Black production. I call that segregation, and I don't understand for the life of me. But hopefully this is not just a fad, and that there will actually be real opportunities for someone who is tanned as I am.
100%. Yeah, and thank God there's a sea change that you can, affirm and that has made a difference. Thank you. And I wanted to, it's funny, I just remembered while you all were speaking that I had the opportunity to record some art songs once that a cousin of mine wrote. He was elderly. He was like my grandmother's first cousin. And we didn't even know each other. He worked on Broadway in his earlier days, and he used to write plays and songs and perform across the country. And we struck up a correspondence, when he was in his 70s and 80s, and then he sent me the music to a few songs that he had composed. And so I worked with my voice coach so we could record them for him. And he was the lyricist, and he was working with a composer friend of his who's also a pianist and a doctor, who I still have never met in person, only corresponded with him. And it was really fun, but the piano was very difficult. And it was difficult for my voice coach. She's a great pianist, but it was really hard on her. But I really enjoyed doing that. I guess I'm sort of leaping ahead into future questions again with what I'm saying too. But that is one experience that I got to have where I don't think anyone else had really ever recorded those songs, but I never did get to perform them for him. He listened to them, but we weren't in the same room when that even happened. And now, unfortunately, he's gone. So we didn't really get to refine it in the way that it could have been. But maybe someday y'all could help me with that. It would be fun.
I'm sure it's beautiful.
Thank you. He was
so
very
special.
Talented. He was so talented and lovely. And he was a single man for all his life, really. He had a couple of really close relationships that he told me about. One was with a woman and one was with a man. And he sent me lots of stories about his life that were really interesting. Then lots of poems and all these things that he told me what they were all about. And, I was just fascinated. I was fascinated by all of it, and sort of sad that he didn't end up with a partner through the end of his life. But he did always have wonderful friends, and he was always in love with the arts, all the way to the end of his life. And that was beautiful. And we all, as a family, we all really loved him. Okay. Next question. How can you ensure the best possible performance of a new work as its first ever interpreter? Let's go to Amber first this time.
All right. So I was thinking about that question because I think for a lot of us nowadays, okay, so back up to when I was first learning how to be a performer back in undergrad days. I graduated with my bachelor's in 2005. So there really wasn't YouTube yet, right? And if I wanted to hear a performance of work, I had to physically go to the library and see what they had and listen to it in the library for the most part. But now, if you want to hear anything at all, you can just search it and listen to it. But when you've got new music, those of us who maybe rely on, maybe gleaning from recordings we've heard or anything like that. I mean, especially if we're not a good enough musician to maybe just read it well, for example, we have to come up with other tools. But, I think it's obviously reading is extremely important, and I've been brushing up on that a lot. And I mean, it's such a joy once you can do it. It's actually really fun to read the music. But man, in terms of ensuring a good performance, I think if you're doing it as a soloist or as a chorister, it makes a huge difference. So as a chorister, you don't get to make a lot of decisions. Just do the best you can do, as you always do, and follow the director, who's going to be the main interpreter of the music. But as a soloist, I don't really have a good answer to that, so much as collaborate well and then use your feelings, like lots of emotion as much as possible, because that sells things so much more than skill, actual feeling.
Really, yeah, make a choice. Make sure that you make a strong choice, right? Okay, I know Alina's going to have a lot to say about this too, so let's go to Mike. Let's go to Mike next, and then Alina can address some of the soloist stuff. I guess you both have been doing some of the soloist premiere stuff.
I so resonated with what Amber was saying because she sounds like she's spot on the target. For me, it comes down to rehearsal. I think the biggest mistake is not to rehearse enough, to just make it second nature. Just over rehearse if you can, and then throw it all away. And then, like she said, make those acting choices so that it's as strong as humanly possible. Like in my piece that I premiered last Sunday, I mean, people were sobbing when they heard some of the letters that we said, just because the acting coach who was Lisbeth Luca, by the way, she had made sure that she said, "Who are you singing this song for?" Usually you just go out and you sing a song, especially if it's my own work, which it was. I sung it 100 times. This time it was much more powerful because I had a very specific person in mind. And for the second one and for the third one. But rehearsal, nothing takes the place of rehearsal. I heard someone once say that they like to only learn something halfway, so that they're uncomfortable, so that they can, and of course, I just wanted to shoot myself. Like, I could never go out only having something half learned. That would be too uncomfortable for me, but maybe it works for others.
Yeah, that's tricky. I mean, everybody has their level of comfort, how much they're willing to just sort of like, oh, well, it's good enough. Let's just see how it goes. Alina?
That's a little scurry.
Yeah, that's not my style either. Yeah, so building off of what you both already said, I think for me, like the foundation of like really strong musicianship skills for premiering first time new works, it's having that strong foundation of making sure that you get these rhythms and notes the correct. Just is the first, is just like the foundation part of it, right? Because you're the first person doing it, you're going to be the first person recording it. If you mess up, then everybody who comes after you is going to have that example, and you want to do it justice to what the composer wrote. So in terms of, for me, like, just taking it down to the basics of when I just first take a look at the music, I'll sit down at the piano and I'll play it out, and I'll, figure out any tough rhythms, all that stuff. And then a lot of the time I'll actually record it for myself, especially if it's something where I have to memorize it moderately quickly, which a lot of the time that is what, my Boston Court concert, I ended up having like a month to prepare all these new premieres. That was just like a lot of music. So I had to memorize it all really fast. So the way that I did that was make my own recordings. Even just like, silly little iPhone recordings, just so that I could have something to listen to help with the memorization. The other thing that I do is just research, so much research. So if it's about a character, who is a person in history, making sure that I have all the foundation of every little bit of research that I can find on that person, because that helps you get into the character that much more and be more convincing in your acting skills, or if it's a poem, then to do as much, as much literary, diving into it and into the poem as deeply as possible, and research the poet and research all that. And that for me really helps that become much more successful, because if you have that kind of foundation in the background and how it all happened, then you're gonna feel it that much more. And then just having conversations again with the composers, and analyzing the choices that they made musically. So what made them hold out this word this long? What were they thinking in their conscious choices of setting the text in that way, and having lots and lots of conversations with the composers, and lots of conversations with your collaborators, because the more you can bounce ideas off of each other, the better and more successful it's going to be. So really, all this stuff for me, I never think about it as like, even when I'm premiering solo work, it's never solo. It's me in collaboration with the pianist, with the composer, with the whoever wrote the text, whether it's a librettist or poet or whatever the text is. It's a collaboration between all those people, and treating it as such is how I always feel like I can approach it the most successfully.
That's really good. I mean, and what I'm hearing from all of you is that you've got to be incredibly detail oriented and patient, with yourself. You've got to set aside a lot of time. I mean, that's true with any new music, but even more so, I think that those of us who have been around doing this kind of stuff in sight reading for a while, you have got to probably retrain yourself to look even more carefully at something than you would, because it's not going to be necessarily the same. Yeah, Amber.
I just want to add on to that from my experience working with these commissioned pieces and the director that we had, it's possible to respect the composer too much.
Oh, I agree. 100%.
Yeah, and the composer a lot of the time is like, oh, do whatever you want there.
Oh, I'm glad you've had that experience too.
Yeah,
I wasn't
definitely.
sure.
Yes.
No, yeah, 100%, Amber, because sometimes they'll say, "Oh, give me a recording that you've done of my piece." I was like, "I don't want you to hear what's been done. I want you to take this piece and I want you to read the metronomic markings. Every note is in place. Just play it. I don't want to collaborate with. I just want them to play it as a piece of music. You know, they don't collaborate with Mozart or Mendelssohn. They just play the music, make some art of it."
Yeah. Yeah. So like what I experienced was watching this director say, you know what, the piece feels too short. We're going to add a chorus again, or, you know, we're going to take fermatas here, or we're going to do this or that. And like or change words, change everything. Like the dynamics mean nothing on the page, you know, do whatever he wants to do kind of thing. And that was really freeing for me, coming from a classical background and then doing that. And I was like, oh, I love this. It was so nice. It felt so alive, you know?
Yeah, even a lot of the composers who are in the whatever contemporary classical genre that I've worked with, even they have left plenty of room for me to have my own creative say with stuff, which is also really wonderful and really freeing. The people that I've worked with have also just been incredible, like humans, really great humans, who, you know, take all that into consideration, you know, and if they're writing for you, they want you to bring some of that into it too. So that's a real privilege, actually, being able to have that part of the creative say into it as well. That's a really good point.
I wanted to say something about Michal Zukovsky, who's this incredible clarinetist, and I've written a bunch of clarinet and the string orchestra pieces. And because of COVID, she played with the Los Angeles Philharmonic's first chair clarinet for 54 years. So if it hadn't been for COVID, I wouldn't have gotten to hear her play my work. And she came in and she's like, "Oh, just call me your grandmother." You know, she's just very sweet with a tone that would drive you insane. It's so beautiful. And one of the pieces was, it's called Child of the Walker by Moonlight. I'll send you a recording of it. And it was a revelation hearing her play the lead clarinet on this beautiful little chamber piece. And I'm going to tell a story on my dear friend Matthew Ian Welch. So Matthew was the sound man.
That man.
We all love
him.
Matthew. Don't
yes,
we love him? So Matthew gets in his head and he's very technical sometimes. And so at one point he went up to Michal Zukovsky. We were on a break. He said, "Yeah, ma'am, you played a wrong note here and here." And I just went, "We never tell Michal Zukovsky." I laughed so hard, but I had to take him to the woodshed because someone's playing your music and it's an out-of-body experience to have someone of that caliber, which I would never have had access to because the world was closed to her during this time. And that was spectacular.
These are great stories. I'm enjoying this so much. Does anyone have anything else they want to add before we go on to the next question, which is Michael's favorite, I think, about unexpected challenges? What are some unexpected challenges you faced when premiering a new work? Mike, do you want to go take this first? Because I think you had some good jumping off points there.
Well, you know, like I said, you see this, the people were so nervous at All Saints. It turned into a monumental success for everyone involved. But coming up to it, I had these, Matthew Ian Welch and I, because he's a great photographer as well as an amazing audio went out on a very cold night in Griffith Park, and I'm completely naked and I'm carrying this 100-pound chain because we wanted to give resonances from the past to the present. And this chain was killing me. And if I didn't have back problems before, I do now. And so we got two really beautiful shots. And my friend Elizabeth Luca colorized them, and they're just beautiful. And I sent them to the church, and at first they were thrilled. And then someone said, well, this might trigger some white people, so I don't know if we can use these pictures. And then they came up and they said, well, a couple days later, and we're a week away from performance at this point, they said, well, we're thinking that some white people might get triggered by how strong the stories are. And so what we want you to do is do a little bit of a disclaimer, explaining to them what they're going to hear, and their feelings might get hurt a little bit. And I finally stood up and I said, I'm very sorry, but I can't apologize for being Black. I can't apologize to what was done to me by the oppressor. So if their feelings are going to be hurt, hopefully they just won't show up.
Right.
But it was an amazing thing to realize how fragile a lot of white people are, which is a bizarre notion to me, because I always think of white people as, forgive me for talking about you, Betsy, and Amber and Alina. I always think of white people as very strong, as very powerful. And yet when it comes to the one, because we can talk about the Holocaust, we can talk about...
That's what I was about to say. I was like, how is that different from the Holocaust Memorial service?
Or the Native Americans? Yeah, right. Native American, or the Japanese internment, or right. the Armenian genocide. And yet when it comes to Black people, white people just turn into snowflakes. Not all, not the lovely ladies I'm looking at right now, but it was just bizarre. So I was ready to just say, and when I said no, they then repeated it because they were sure that I hadn't heard them or understood what they were saying. And I was like, I went to Carnegie Mellon. I hear you loud and clear.
Wouldn't you have been more worried about triggering Black people if it was that strong?
Oh, no. Black people are so strong that they're not going to be triggered by the truth of what happened to us. But there was no N words. There's no villainizing anyone. It's just saying, I'm 28 years old. My master raped me. And when the child was born, it showed traces of Negro blood. So they threw me in jail. If that's going to trigger someone, I think that some more therapy is in order.
Well, it's horrifying, but yes, it was the Holocaust. Like, this is,
Yeah, but now across this country, the big movement of censoring everything so that no one's feelings are hurt, which shocks me. It just shocks me.
Well, it's not art if you're doing that, which is, we maybe should go down this road a little later and go back to the original question a little bit, because I don't want to go too far afield. But I mean,
that was my challenge.
Right. I mean, no, it's a huge challenge. It's definitely worth discussing, because sensitivity in how the work is going to be received is a part of obviously how the writers write, how we compose, because we're trying to accomplish something. We have a message. You have a message or a response in mind. Even if you were only writing for yourself, there's an intent there.
Betsy, I really don't have a response in mind. I just put the work out there and I say to myself, let the people decide. I'm not as much of a control freak. Maybe I should be more of a control freak, but that's too much control for me to try to program their response to my art.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Because it would, you can't, and that's not your job by any means. But okay. Do you have any more you want to say on that? Because I'm listening.
Oh, I think I said too much.
No, I don't think you said too much at all. I don't have any qualms about anything you said.
And I do make one apology for lumping all white people into a boat of insensitivity. It's just that in these last 6 or 7 years, I suddenly realized where I am on this earth, as far as what people think of me. What maybe 54% think of me this way, and 40 whatever think of me this way, depending on their political and philosophical beliefs. And I'm fine with that. I'm really glad to know now that the N word is so easily and often said by a vast number, and that affects my art because I am my art. And so for me to know what people think of me before I go out on the stage, I don't think can be overstated.
I'm so sorry to hear that.
Is it a surprise, Betsy?
Oh, gosh. I don't know if I could answer that in any way that would be meaningful to you from
No.
me.
Honesty is okay.
I have heard some horrible stories, so I can't say that I am horribly surprised, but I think that I hope that this is changing a lot. I hope it's changing right now.
From your lips to if there is a God's ears, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, I listened to I listened to Alina, and I listened to lovely Amber and you, and I wish and dream for some of the opportunities that you guys have. I've done fine in my life and in my career, but there's I don't even get a tenth of the opportunities that you guys get artistically because of my skin. So, and I don't blame you. I look at you and wonder, and I love you all. I toured with you, Betsy. I toured with you, Alina, to some of the most beautiful places on the earth, and we had an incredible time.
Yeah.
If only Amber had been there.
Yeah. Well,
but
we're not done.
We're not done. But I tell you, and I'm not lamenting so much as just hoping for more before I shuffle off this mortal coil,
Absolutely.
Because what you take for granted, I don't take for granted.
No, I mean, and I hope that none of us do, but it isn't the same. You're absolutely right that it isn't the same for everyone. And I hope that we continue to create opportunities for everyone.
Yeah, may I say one tiny thing? Yeah. I was supposed to do the, what do you call it? The slave letters or the lamentations at a different church. It was actually St. Francis with Janine Wagner, and the singing spirituals, having a production called the Slave Letters, and having the Wagner Ensemble, which is all white except for a couple Korean ladies and me, would be a joke. It would be laughed off the stage by anybody who's a thinking human being, because there's a cognitive dissonance, I think. Does that sound odd, or do you get what I mean?
I have cognitive dissonance frequently.
Yeah.
Huh?
I know what cognitive dissonance is. I experience it frequently.
Yeah. Absolutely. But I mean, does that make sense about that? It would be a little silly having a bunch of white people singing spirituals in a production without any black representation, except maybe one guy.
Yeah,
but I don't think they got it. But and so I just did it someplace where it was welcome. So
actually, Michael, that brings up an interesting question that I have. So one of the works that I have premiered was actually during my master's at USC, and it's a work that I still love to sing whenever I have the chance. And it was written by Thomas Kotcheff, and it was written. And so this class that I did at USC was like, it's run by Lisa Sylvester, the pianist, and it was a class where it was a collaboration between the poetry department, the composition department, and the voice department. And a piece that was written for me by a Black poet that was it was from the perspective of a slave, and he wrote it for me specifically. And from the very beginning, I was like, are you sure this is okay for me to sing? And he said, I want you to sing it. I wrote it for you to sing. I was like, okay. And so, but every time I've performed it, I have had that cognitive dissonance of like, should I be the one singing this from the perspective of a slave? Shouldn't a Black woman be singing this aria? What do you think about that, Mike?
Well, I love everyone calling me Mike. I am not a Mike. I'm a Michael.
You have Mike on your thingy right there.
I don't know why.
You've confused us all now. Because I really thought that you wanted to be called Mike. That's the only reason.
No. But it's fun in a way. Hey, I'm Mike. I've got a motorcycle. That's a very interesting thing. And to answer your question, I had the director of his name is Wei Chung Zhao at All Saints, and he's my new boss. And he called me. He said, "Do you think that Negro spirituals should be sung by only Black people?" And I said to him, if you tell me that only Black people can sing spirituals, it's not long before they say, well, Michael, you can't sing German art songs or French art songs. Those are only for the white people.
Uh-huh.
And Black people have been far too long put in the box of, well, even Leontine Price, dear, you should only sing Aida and some of those Negro spirituals, So to answer your question, Alina, I think you're an incredible singer. You're an incredible actress. If channeling this slave woman, I think it'd be incredible for you to bring that to the world. And that's my impression.
And you'll be even better at it.
Unexpected challenge, though, Alina. Yeah.
You'll be even better at it since having a kid.
Oh God, yeah. I can't wait to hear that voice. Oh. Look, even she laughs differently, people. This is not our uptight little Alina.
Oh my gosh. I don't think of Alina's ever being uptight. I just think she's always had a gorgeous voice.
Yeah. But oh my God. It must. I celebrate her and all women for going through that, because it's not an easy thing. No man could ever go through that.
So do I.
It definitely unlocks things, I will say.
Has it changed your voice a lot?
I feel like it probably has. I mean, I haven't defined that, but definitely my brain has been changed.
Well, that's our biggest organ, our most intense creative part of us.
They call it a second puberty.
Really?
Yeah, chemically it's changed. You change. It's like altered. The brain's completely it's similar to puberty. Yeah.
You look really kick-ass. I can't wait to hear you sing too.
You're sweet.
Yes, you should hear Amber sing because she is phenomenal. All right, let's go on to the next question. Wednesday?
I'm telling him to come on Wednesday and hear me sing in Pomona.
Excellent.
Yes. Excellent. So Trinity Unit something. I'm going to look up the name of the church. Sorry. It's in Pomona. Repertory Opera Company. Wednesdays at noon concerts with Elizabeth Luca.
She does such amazing work. She has a network of like 5 or 6 churches in the area.
Yeah.
Including in Claremont, a place called the Packing House. And it's like an atrium, and all the proceeds go to help people who are in prison. I mean, it's just amazing the things she does.
really is. Yeah. Anyway, concert's free, so.
Excellent. Excellent. Yes, you all should go to Pomona on Wednesday night. My gosh, I have no idea what I'm doing on Wednesday night. Oh, yes. I
Oh,
do.
Wednesday at noon.
Wednesday at noon, yeah.
Oh, Wednesday night.
Middle of the
Wednesday
day.
at noon. All right. That's always fun to do middle of the day thing. And is it on is it live stream as well? Can we
No,
tune in
it's
to
not
this?
live stream.
You got to come in person like a person who likes to be around people. All right.
And has a lunch break if you have a lunch break.
All right. Okay. So what advice, question 4, what advice do you have? We only got 10 minutes left. I told you it would go fast. What advice do you have? It did. I mean, every time you look at it and you're like, what am I going to talk about for 60 minutes? I mean, so I have to talk for 15 minutes? No. It goes by. What advice do you have for aspiring composers and performance of new music? Besides what you've already said, because I think you've already given a lot of people a lot of great advice. But what else? Whoever wants to jump in, jump in.
I have a good one. For the thing that I have for composers is to really, if you're writing for a singer who is a specific singer, make sure you really get to know their voice beforehand. I get actually the work that I was just talking about, Thomas Kotcheff, composer, when he set that poetry, he actually said it. I spoke the text, I spoke the poem into a recorder and sent it to him, and then so he based the work off of my reading of the poem, and he like did all this research of like finding out which pieces I liked to sing that really fit my voice really well. So he got to know like the mechanics of my voice before writing for me, which was really, really nice. And even if it's like, I mean, that was like above and beyond, but mostly when I'm working with a new composer, I'll be like, here's what my voice likes to do. It likes to go really high, and then it likes to go really low, and then it likes to, you know, but it doesn't like to sit up there really for a really, really long time. It likes to go like this, you know, and if you want the words to be more understood, keep it more to the staff. And if you want it to be more, you know, so like for singers, getting to know how to describe your own instrument, in a concise and specific way, so that when you're working with composers, then you can let them know that. And they can write for you much more successfully than if it's just like, I'm a soprano, and then they're like, cool, all right, you know, I'll write way up here, and then I'm like, oh, my voice doesn't really like doing that, you know. So to make sure you really have an open communication with each other about how what your voice is really good at, and then from the composer's perspective, who it is that you're writing for and what's going to make them sound the best.
That's great. Yeah, being really upfront and honest and knowing your own capabilities.
And I think that's great. Can I jump in?
Yeah.
I think it's great that you have that gift of time to spend with a composer. I think I said this before, I wish more of them just knew that a soprano voice is in this octave, an alto voice is in this octave, a tenor voice and a bass voice, as opposed to just rambling all over without any rhyme or reason, which a lot of them seem to do. And I wish also they wouldn't try to reinvent the wheel. So I would say serve the text. You don't need, this is not a piano concerto. Just, if the text is about a baby sleeping, it can be a lullaby, it can be a berceuse. It doesn't have to be a 21 gun salute on the piano using every accidental that you've ever heard and every double flat. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. I think what you both said, and you've kind of alluded to this without actually saying it, but through the whole show, you've all said, you know, be teachable, you know, be a listener, both as a composer and a musician, because we're always growing, and that whole collaboration process will teach you a lot, you know, for this work, but then also will inform your next work, how you approach the next performance, whether you're the creator or performer, you know. And I think patience, you know, is a big deal. Being patient with yourself as you're learning and being patient with your performers. I mean, I think that, Michael, you'd be easy to work with and work for because you seem to be very receptive to the input of others, and that's important, and not everybody is.
I don't think I am, Betsy.
No.
I'm sorry.
We've never tried it. I'm not suggesting that we should necessarily. Maybe not.
No,
I'm just saying. It appears you have made the impression upon me in the last 55 minutes.
I made such a wrong impression.
Fun to work with.
See,
well, we survived the tour, Michael. We survived.
The only thing you have to do when you perform my music is do it exactly as written. You can put a little Luftpause here, but just that's all I ask. I'm not trying to micromanage. Huh?
Just don't screw up just like most classical composers. I read it, exactly. I put it in there for a reason.
It's all the same. I'm not asking for any other than just playing it as it's written. You know, yeah. Don't horrify me like that, Betsy.
I'm sorry, Michael. I can't do that.
I did not mean to mischaracterize your work in any way at all.
Somebody played something of mine, and I said, I did not hear the G sharp. And they're like, oh, but I think it sounds so much better with the G natural. I was like, you will not be playing that piece.
Oh, that's a different story. No.
And I don't know whether it's the disrespect of, there's so many things go through my mind why they would presume to change a note that I wrote. Because I'm a slow composer. It takes me a long time, and I make my choices with great authority. So don't change it.
That's not a bad thing. I'm the same. Like I said, I don't really write music so much as I write lyrics. If I write music, it's because I want to play it for myself, and it's not elaborate. But if I wrote a word, I don't want you to change that word in the script or a song. No.
Oh yeah.
I chose that word for a reason, and yeah. Anyways, Amber, anything that you want to add?
This might be a bit of a new thought for some, or it might just be a challenge. Commission something.
Nice.
Here.
Whatever that means to you. Commission a piece of music.
Great.
And find out if you can afford it, or work it out. But I think that's something more people should consider.
Oh
That's
my God.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's brilliant. I think a lot of us, that brings us to our last question. We got 3 minutes left. Whether you're a commissioner or a writer or composer, what new works do you anticipate or dream about being part of in the future? Or maybe just host. Maybe you have a stage or a church or a venue available to you, and you could just be the venue where someone performs their new work. What do you anticipate being part of next and hope to? Amber?
Okay, I gotta confess this. I am dying to sing background vocals for films.
Ooh, that'd be fun.
I can see that. I can see her doing that.
And that's brand new stuff all the time. That's awesome.
Yeah. So I know that takes reading. You gotta read, and I don't know too much else about it, but I want in.
Well, it takes connections.
Yeah.
I got to sing background in a little tiny choir in the background of Sharknado 5.
How'd that go?
It was fantastic. I get to hold like the high note mostly by myself. That was really fun.
Was the money really good, Betsy?
It was somewhere between $30 and $60, but it was only one session. Real quick, it was not a long piece of music. But I have bragging rights. Sharknado 5. Not many people can say that.
And
Michael,
the former president loved Sharknado.
Did he? Oh, well, yeah. I mean, I honestly have never wanted to see any of those movies. I still don't. But thank you for the opportunity. Yeah. Okay.
But I want to know if Alina has done it. Have you done it, Alina, with the Master Chorale? Have you
I have not done that with Master Chorale. No. I've done some different recording gigs and studio work stuff like that, and it is it is actually some of my very favorite things to do. It's really fun to go in there and just kind of try on different personas and sometimes different voices. And I did one studio session where it was like I was like doing a voice of like a little kid and then a old lady at the same time. It's like in the same session, which was really fun. It's that is definitely something that's really fun to do, really great to do, and would also love to do more of it. Really fun. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, we're right at 4:00. Michael, Alina, you want to share a little bit more about what you're doing next?
Honestly, for me, I think I'd like to there's a lot of projects that got interrupted during the pandemic that I'd like to follow through on now that things are opening up a little bit more, like this recording project with my dad that got interrupted, and Jordan Nelson and I had visions of expanding our project that we did, that we had started before. So yeah, I would really just like to follow through with some of those things that I had started before things got shut down. And then obviously anything really. I love working on anything new, anything that's collaborative and fun with good people. For me, it's like if I enjoy the people that I'm working with and I enjoy the music, it's like dream come true.
Oh God, hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
I want to do the same thing. I think I mentioned it. I have a small violin and piano piece that I'm working on, and I'm 3 or 4 or 5 days into it. So I've got a fair number of measures because I do 4 measures a day. So
That's great.
So now I just have to finish it.
Awesome. Well, please send me or post your links here at the bottom of this video on Facebook so that anyone who's watching can find out more about your career and what you have coming up and any recordings you have out there. Thank you so much for being with us, Amber, Alina, and Michael. And I hope you come back and are on the show again.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.